My name is Julie Turney, and this is the HR Sound Off podcast show, the show created for HR and business professionals to discuss pertinent topics and trends as it relates to our professions. We're going to have amazing conversations with HR professionals from all over the world, get to learn their origin stories. How did they get into this profession? What do they love about being here? And how they want to set the record straight on that one misconception that really drives them crazy about our profession. Are you ready? I'm ready. Then let's sound off. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the HR Sound Off podcast show. My name is Julie Turney, and I am your host, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here again, magnifying another wonderful HR voice in our space. Today with me is Veronica Sargent, and I want to tell you a little bit about how I got in contact with Veronica, because I think this is the first time I've ever stepped outside of my comfort zone to reach out to someone this way. But I found Veronica first on TikTok, a new space that I am exploring. And Veronica has some amazing videos that she does on TikTok under the People Culture Collective. And I think if you've never heard about her, if you've never seen her videos, you need to go to TikTok right now and go and follow Veronica, because she's sharing some amazing stories about how life is in the HR space, in the world of work, and how we navigate that. But then I actually started to follow Veronica on Instagram as well. And I reached out to her on Instagram and I said, Veronica, I love your content. Will you come on our podcast and talk about who you are, share your story, and let's talk a little bit about navigating the TikTok space as HR professionals, because I think a lot of us are nervous about doing that. So Veronica, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Julie, for having me. It's always very nerve-wracking to actually get to meet somebody that, I follow on social media and then actually not get that interaction. So it's so lovely to finally meet you and have a chat with you. So I'm doing all right. It's early here, but I think it's late for you. So I really appreciate that.
Yes.
We're having this conversation.
Absolutely. We're on different time zones. So let's tell everybody a little bit about who is Veronica. Tell us where you're from. So you're tuning in from Australia, right?
Yes, I am. So a little bit about me. So I'm based in Sydney, Australia, which is lovely. The weather has been really insane at the moment. So I'm a mum of two boys. So that keeps me very busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I work full time as a HR manager in the tech space, so financial technology, actually, so Fintech. Yeah. It's my first year doing this in this kind of startup, scale up type of environment. So I can't wait to kind of talk a little bit about the differences in organized HR, organized structures versus structures that are a little bit more ambiguous, a little bit kind of faster pace. So I think it's that learning for me is what I'm taking as well on TikTok, and a lot of the reasons why I share what I share on Instagram too is that the challenges I've faced, but then the different challenges that I've faced now in this role as well.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I just want to take you back a little down memory lane and kind of could you tell us how did you get into HR?
Yes. Oh my God. It feels like a long, long time ago. So for me, it was really strange because I was living in the US doing au pairing. So like most of us, maybe for those that kind of went from school to university and taking that break in between. So I thought it was a good opportunity to do that. And I was doing it with my sister. So I was au pairing, looking after her child in the US. Now at the time she was working at IBM. Which was interesting because she was already in that kind of corporate culture, and I was still trying to explore what was I going to do after school, or what was I going to study at university or college. And it was interesting. She came home one day, obviously after multiple conversations. It's always nice to have people around you that support you and that see things in you more than kind of you see it yourself.
Yeah.
So she printed. I think at the time it was eCornell. She printed out these. This course, and it was HR. She said, look, have a look at this. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I had not really kind of heard of that before. I didn't even know what it was. I wasn't in corporate at all. I was this person out of high school. And she said, I know that you kind of like people. I know that you like customer service because I'd worked in hospitality. Right. I know you enjoy that. And you also were kind of trying to explore law. And this kind of looks into employment law.
Right.
And she said, have a look at that. And I mean, to this day, I talk to her and she looks at, I do feel like I'm successful. I mean, everyone has different definitions. And she's, she always reminds me, and I always remind her, like, remember that time at the kitchen when you shared that with me? And then this is where I am. And I've taken my career to the point that, and at times I feel like I don't want to do this anymore. But then most of the
Yes.
time I feel really grateful that I've got this opportunity here. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's it.
That is an amazing story to see how you've, traversed your journey through HR. And I think that it's really important for people to know that, even if you didn't think about it before, that the possibility of getting into the space, that it is there, right?
Definitely, definitely. And I think it's like it suits a particular type of person. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a level of and I'm not saying in other professions people are not resilient, but there's
Right.
definitely different type of resilience, like emotional and mental, that you kind of
Yes.
need to have in order to sustain a career in HR. And I mean, I'm sure you're very well aware of that, but we can
Oh, yes,
delve into
definitely.
that later on. But
Yes,
yeah.
definitely. And I guess that kind of puts me to um, how I actually found you. So on TikTok, the videos that you share, I mean, you're always sharing your experiences with, or I should say, in theory or in hypothesis, right? This is what
Yes.
happens in the HR space sometimes when we're dealing with managers or employees. And I'll tell you what drew me to your content because, like I said, I started navigating TikTok last year. So just creating videos, experimenting with TikTok, trying to find out what HR professionals were doing on TikTok. And we were talking about this a little bit before. So there were a couple of people that I found in the HR TikTok space that I just found somewhat questionable. So I don't know if I guess some people do it as a way to de-stress or find a
Mm,
release to share their experiences in skit format about what happens in HR when you're dealing
yeah.
with employees. But there's something about that kind of scenario for me as an HR professional that just feels it doesn't sit well with me, right?
Mm,
But when I look at your content and I see how you're sharing, your experiences, your stories, that's everybody's story and everybody's experience. And you can totally resonate with it in a respectful way. But I think when it comes
yes.
to the point that you're sharing content as an HR professional that is insulting
Mm,
leaders or insulting employees, like I feel like I told the line and say, no, that's not
yeah, yeah.
how I think we should be using our time as HR professionals
Mm.
pushing content on TikTok. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there are some boundaries that we need to set as
Mm-hmm.
professionals, and I understand that we don't want to be boring in a sense, because TikTok is an entertainment platform. So there is an element where you're creating content to engage people because you're trying to be relatable. And
Yeah.
so for me, there are certain things that are relatable broadly across the corporate world in terms of dealing with managers that may be a little bit tricky to deal with. And then
Mm-hmm.
there are those where it's specific to our community in HR. And you'll see that kind of, you see that the content that I share, I try
Yes,
to make it so that not everyone is going to get this. This is very niche specifically that, someone like you
exactly.
and I would be like, oh my Lord, like
Mhm.
no one will even get it. No one
I
will even
know.
understand what is going on here. Like this doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also tried and tested. There are some, one TikTok that I deleted, because, the reaction, and I needed to gauge that. So it was the first
Yeah.
time where a lot of people really criticized and said, how is this something that, as a HR professional, how could you do this? Employees feel like they're, this particular way. And I thought, you know what, message received, I will delete this. This is not something that's, appropriate for people. They didn't feel that
Yeah.
it was something that, represented. And
Mm-hmm.
then for me, it was like, it wasn't going away from that conversation, because I'm happy to have the hard conversations, but it
Yes.
has to be the right ones as well. Because I think it
Mm-hmm.
was more making fun of that experience that an employee is having, as opposed
Yeah.
to saying that as a HR professional, these are our challenges. And I think that's the difference.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Yes. Well, tell me
yeah.
about like why did you think to put that content out there on TikTok? Like, what drove you to do it?
Yeah, it's funny because I've always, and this is the segue, right? Because I felt like in HR, I wanted a bit of a break from all. Obviously, we deal a lot with people, and they are a little bit when you're dealing with people in a HR space. Yes, you celebrate. There are people that are happy to get their salary reviews, happy to get their promotions. You're coaching them and you see them succeed. But majority of the time, people really offload a lot of the issues that they have, whether it's within their business or whether it's personally, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's part and parcel of the job. So for me, it was like coming into the social media space. I did marketing as well in university. So I did marketing and HR as my major.
Okay.
It was something that gave me energy. I felt like when I was creating social media content, and I started as a mum blogger actually. So I was doing blogs with my kids and my family. I was doing it with my husband, and I was like kind of social media marketing him. Like, so I would post content, and then, you know, people would contact us and sponsorships for certain products that were specific to dads. And so that kind of where it came out. And then TikTok had come out in March or 2019. And I had a mum blog on TikTok, and we were doing a lot of TikToks that was very related to parents and parenthood. And then I thought, let me just try one, because I always think it's so funny in HR when you go into like a work event and you kind of get a little bit tipsy and you think, actually, it's time for me to go. And I thought, okay, that's a really funny one. Let me try this one. And then I'll just call it People in Culture Collective, because I want to create a community. And I think you'll resonate with this, Julie. I want it to be just for HR people. I want them to come on here and see it and think it's funny, and that no one else will get it. And then I posted one. It didn't really go anywhere. It was like whatever. So a few people liked it. And then the second one, and then I spoke about a manager and high turnover. And it was, and then that was the one that went kind of a little, and I thought, okay, there's something here. Let me try. Let me continue. So,
and you definitely have done a great job at pushing that content out. What helps you to just like keep going? So like, I know for me, as you know, putting content out there, it has its challenges. Some days you feel creative, some days you don't.
Totally.
What's your how do you keep going? Like, what helps you? What's your thought process behind putting out the content as well?
I actually like it's strange maybe, and I think maybe for you it's the same, because I think it's when you feel like it. I think when you take away the fun out of that, then it becomes a job, right? And that's the thing, you're supposed to be doing something. I think the more you take it away for the fact that it's a chore, I think then, you know, if I feel that the inspiration is not there, I don't force myself and I take a bit of a break.
Yes.
On the flip side though, because I do feel that you always have to make an extra effort. If I feel like I haven't created content and I'm not feeling the inspiration for days, and I think that, okay, well, you need to maintain momentum, and there are people out there that not relying on you, but people that enjoy that content as well. So I just make, you know, I don't make myself, but I just sit in front of my kind of my setup.
Right.
And then I have saved sounds. So what I do is I listen to those sounds, I get myself ready. I listen to those sounds and I just create content without any kind of thought process behind it. I'm just using the sounds. Right. And then when I feel inspired, I have 5 or 6 sounds that are trending at the moment. And then when I feel that inspiration, I go, let me look at my drafts. And then the content comes. Yeah. So you just have to force yourself to do the trending sounds for me on TikTok. And then the inspiration comes later, whether I'm going for a walk, I start thinking about the sound that I made. And then I'm thinking, how does that relate back? And so it allows me to have more thinking time, as opposed to if I'm sitting there, it's very frustrating. I've also tried that, to think that I need to create the content and then know the content. And it's actually, sometimes it doesn't flow as easily. So you need to give yourself that time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I find like, I know a lot of the social media managers, gurus out there will say, oh, you need to create a content calendar. I find,
no, I can't.
I don't do that. Like for me, sometimes, and I find also, I don't pressure myself to push content every week,
Mm.
with the exception of LinkedIn, because
Yeah, LinkedIn, you have a yes.
that's where
Yeah.
my audience is. And so for me,
Yes.
that's where my audience is. That's where my business runs. So for me,
Yes.
connecting with people on LinkedIn on a daily basis is important. Although when I'm taking moments, like when I'm taking a break like this, I may post maybe every other day, but then outside
Mm.
of that, I'll post every day because LinkedIn for me is like I already know on Monday I'm gonna post one thing, Tuesday I'm gonna post this, Fridays
Yes.
I
Yeah.
post a TikTok video
Yeah.
that I've done and just leave that. And then the other thing about content is forever. Like once you put it out there, people will
Mm.
find it.
It's there.
It's
Yes.
there and people will find it. And then sometimes this is the thing that really bugs me. You know, sometimes you create a piece of content and you're like, I'm so proud of that. That looks so
I
good. You put it out
know.
there and nothing
I
happens,
know.
right? But then on the day when you just do the goofiest thing or you write 3 lines, you find like it goes viral and you're like,
I know. I know. It's totally in my experience too. It's the same. I
yeah,
do feel that, you kind of put a lot of effort in one and you think, okay, that did not resonate. And then you like do something super quick. And I'm like, okay, that's strange, but all right, I'll accept it.
I'll accept it. I'll accept it. I'll take
Yeah,
it for what it is.
I'll accept that. I'll take
Clearly,
that. Yeah.
clearly, I need not to think so deeply about putting this content together because on the days when I feel like
Yeah.
that was trash and people love it, and I'm like, what?
But that's the beauty of TikTok. I feel that, I had spent a lot of time doing the mum blogs, and
Mm-hmm.
it was actually a lot of effort to build like some perfect kind of content. And I really respect social media managers in terms of
Yeah.
they do a lot of things in terms of these are the trending sounds. And you see a lot of those to be like, you do this. And if you do this, this is what I think. And it really helps people with businesses, for example,
Yes.
to create like traction and engagement. And people rely on that for income. And I think that's totally fine. But if you're doing it as a side hustle, almost like something that is just, I think it's better if you post the things that are true to you. And I
Yes.
think it's better if you don't force, oh, 1 a day or 7 a day or 10 a day, because
Exactly.
it's so exhausting. You're
It
trying to
is.
build into this square that I think it's just it doesn't allow you to be as creative or
No.
thinking outside of your kind of like, yeah, I don't know. That's just how my experience has been.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. I want to just ask you, like, what would be your top three things, pieces of advice that you would give to HR professionals who are trying to navigate, especially TikTok,
Mm,
and thinking about
yes.
actually putting videos on there? Like, what advice would you give to them? Because I know a lot of people, especially in HR, are very hesitant to put content out there, but I feel like it's important. If you really want to be seen as a thought leader in this space, then you need to be
Mm.
pushing content. So what advice would you give to our audience?
Wow, I've never been asked that before because I've never really linked it together that way because I was expressing to you that I kind of separate my LinkedIn professional
Mm-hmm,
kind of persona to my social media my
mm-hmm.
social media HR persona.
Yes.
So I think my advice, and I've never really answered this question, and I'm thinking on the fly, is that um, I think, like we said before, know the boundaries of where still be interesting because you do need to have that engagement
Mm-hmm.
where it relates to people, but I think it's just having those boundaries that you're not it's more around not exposing, it's more around sharing your challenges and
Mm-hmm.
sharing your funny moments. If you think of it that way, to think, okay, how do I share this moment, how do I share my challenge, how do I share this particular scenario without making the other person or the other party feel any less than. I think
Yes.
that's important. I
Yes.
always think of it like that, to think, if I posted this content, will somebody feel that they are, you know, insulted, or will somebody
Mm-hmm.
feel that this is not doesn't sit right with them? So
Yeah.
that's the number one thing I do. I look at it and I go, no,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second is just like you said, don't take it so seriously. I think for
Yeah.
me, sometimes when I think of a content and I think, oh, this is so hard, put it away. Like go back to it later and look at
Yep.
another content that's just like super funny. Maybe like have a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of fun with it. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think you need to enjoy it also. Like, so I
Yes.
was putting in the middle like a bit of like some of the dances. Like I cannot dance. But I love those trending sounds where people like dancing and doing certain things. So sometimes I'll give it a go. And then I'll just yeah. And then also fit in something that's easy. So if you look at my grid, you'll see that I'm writing, like I'm pretending to write something, and then I put a quote at the top.
Yeah.
So think of something where, okay, you're really inspired by Brene Brown, or you're really inspired and you think, someone else would be inspired by this. So even if you're not saying anything, you're not doing anything, maybe you're in the background just writing or typing or doing whatever, and you put a trending sound under it and put your favorite quote. That's a good start as well. You're not risking anything. You're just sharing what you think resonates with you, that someone else has thought of and that maybe someone else will appreciate. So I think that's probably some of the things where you can just get started, have fun with it. Make sure that no one is like, is going to be offended. Like you're allowed to. I think somebody said something before I saw, she said, I think it's Maddie. She's great. Like she's also in the HR TikTok space. And she talked about spicy HR. She said, we want to be like a little bit spicy. So I love that, because bring a little bit of yourself. Like it's okay if you think, okay, this content is not going to resonate maybe with so many people, but it's more related to me. You have a community in there. So if you have 30 followers, 300 followers, 3,000 followers, if you were sitting in a stadium or you were sitting like somewhere and there's that many people watching you, that's still, impactful.
Yes.
They still want to see that content. So
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like it's important to be like true to yourself. And, try to share some moments. So there are moments like where I'll create content that's super funny. And then there'll be moments when I create content and it's like funny, but the message is serious.
Yes.
So I remember I did a TikTok video, my first viral TikTok video, where I used Beyonce's, one of Beyonce's songs, where the people were doing the drop down challenge.
Oh, so, yes.
And I created a video, but with a difference. So it was when leaders ask you for a meeting after working hours, and I just showed like segments of me shutting my laptop, getting my bag, getting up from my desk and going through the door. And people were like, yes.
I'm like, is that a universal experience? Because that happens all the time. Honestly, all the time. That's so funny.
It is. And I mean, like, when we think about workplace toxicity, right? And you think about the things that people do, whether it's leaders or employees, the things that people do that really make you as HR feel like you don't have a life, or you don't have time to make a separation between work and life. So like those moments when managers call meetings at 5:00, when they know that it could wait until the next day, or when they send you an email at 9:00 or a Slack message at 9:00 at the night or 2:00 in the morning, just because it's something they've remembered, like, but you can't expect me to want to answer that, right? Or when you come to me and you say, oh, this particular employee on my team, I have an issue with them, I want to terminate them. And then when you ask them, but did you tell the person you have an issue with their performance? No. So how can you terminate them? Like, and when I look at your performance review, I can see that you're giving them good reviews. So how do these two things balance?
Oh my God, it's like you're reading my mind all the time. That's what I'm saying to you. And this is what I mean. Like, I feel like with your content, I feel so safe. Like, I feel like I have somebody that really gets my experiences. Like, for me, it's all fun and games, but for you, it's like, I seriously have your back. And I think that's what matters. Like, I think when I'm listening to you now and I think, oh, so I didn't just experience that on my own. I don't feel alone in my experiences. And I think that's what makes a strong community. I think that's why we have that, because no one else experiences, especially those that are standalone HR within functions, like how isolating, completely isolating. And I think I love your content for that reason. I think people feel less alone.
Alone. And that's how I want people to feel. Like, I want people to feel like, oh my gosh, like that totally happens to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find people put in the comments of my content and they go, where is the lie in this? Because this is like, this
Yeah.
is so my life. You know what I mean? Like, you totally get it. I like, where did you come from to create this piece of content for me today? You know, like,
Yes, yes. I have like my direct report because she knows.
uh-huh,
So for her, I mean, she's in HR too, but she
right.
says I always look forward to looking like, and I said to her, and it's
Yes,
also special for you because you understand because we talk about it in
exactly.
real, like we know. So I feel like our communities are more like the broader HR team. So we
Yes,
are the HR team that you can vent to. We are the HR team that you can talk to, which is in some
exactly.
areas you don't have that, right? So
No,
in
you
some
don't.
companies,
No,
so
exactly. So just
yeah.
to be that safe space for,
Mm.
our people, that's what makes it,
Yes.
like these are our people. This is our
Yeah.
community. I think that's what
Yeah.
makes all the difference to, wanting to have
Yeah.
those conversations with our HR teams. I just
Mm.
want to touch a little bit on like your current career and where you're at right now. So we talked
Sure.
about being in fintech. Um, and prior to me exiting corporate, I was working with a tech company, and I just find like it's such a cool experience because everything is so fast paced. You learn to be a lot more agile and resilient when you're working in
Mm.
those spaces. What has that experience been like for you versus previous experiences in HR?
Look, I think they're very, very similar, but I think it's just you're dealing with a different type of environment and people. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the challenges remain exactly the same. Actually, there's nothing that you're experiencing. There will be managers that don't engage with you. There will be managers that will do whatever they want. There will be managers that are amazing and inspiring and great coaches. So in terms of the demographic, I think in terms of from a HR perspective, your challenges and the things that you experience will be the same.
Yeah.
Now, what's different is that the way in which work needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, the ambiguity, not having clear structure in terms of who's in charge of what. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to be able to thrive in an environment where you're problem solving all the time.
Yeah.
And you need to get your hands dirty. And what that means is that, in structures, in company structures where it's already really established, I think
Mm-hmm.
you have very clear roles and responsibilities. In the tech world that I'm in now, there's not. So if someone
Yeah.
is having trouble, and I know that I know who the person to contact, I will go out of my way to try and help that person. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
applies to everyone in the business. So,
Yes.
and I think that's the good thing, and the bad thing is that if you love an environment where you're setting up process, you're constantly building.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about tech as well is that and the startup space is that you're the expert. So if
Yeah.
you are the function, you are the subject matter expert. So there
Mm-hmm.
are, low hanging fruits that, you can just, for me, it was like rolling out employee handbook,
Yeah.
creating policies, making sure we have leadership training, development and liaising
Mm-hmm.
with third party, and looking at employer branding and EVP. And when you're working for big organizations, you're not the person in charge of that. You
No.
will have different centers of excellence that lead those projects, which we
Yes.
also have, but it's
Mm-hmm.
more that from a regional perspective, you're in charge of that in your area. So in
Yeah.
Australia, I am the head of HR, so I
Mm-hmm.
love that. But
Mm-hmm.
also, let's be clear that if you're not doing a good job, you also can't hide. So if you're doing a great
No.
job, you reap all the rewards. But if things go awry, then you're also accountable for that outcome also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think to your point about things being super fast paced and you being exposed but
Mm.
you get your hands wet and you can really get into the
Oh
meat
yeah,
of everything. And
totally.
I think that's one
Yeah.
of the great things about being HR in the tech space. And you can really learn
Mm.
how to navigate even your technology and building your
Yes.
tech stack
Yeah.
is because it's more the company embraces it more because they are a tech company.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean the number of tech startups as well that we utilize, like the HRIS systems of up and
mhm.
coming, you know, like organizations. So you support them because you're also in that space. So it
Yes.
almost just goes around, and I'm using, like, I've never used the Google Suite before, and I was always using Microsoft. Like literally, I would be out somewhere. If without your laptop, you can't do much in previous
That's it.
workplaces.
Hmm.
In the tech space, I am like, if I need something really quickly, I'm at lunch with a friend, I can just go on my Google Drive and get that contract and
Hmm.
screenshot like a part of it. Someone's asking me a question, it's just super easy. And you're working from
Yes.
London, you're working from wherever, Even if you don't have your laptop, if you have somewhere where you can access it, a pad, an iPad or anything like that, you can
pull up whatever you
do
need and
that.
just
So
get going.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Definitely love Google Suite. This is such a great conversation. I'm almost sad to bring it to a close, but I
I
gotta
know.
ask you, what are you reading, watching, listening to right now that you think our audience would enjoy? And it does not have to be HR related, just whatever you're enjoying right now.
Yeah, I mean, you caught me at a bad time because I said to my husband, we're doing like a long weekend, and I'm thinking I need to read something because I
Uh-huh.
haven't read anything in such a long time because you're so busy.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of we're watching The Last Kingdom and Bridgerton, so season 2.
Ooh,
So we're
season
watching
two.
those two.
Okay.
I know it's a little bit different, so we kind of just vary it up.
Uh-huh.
It's always nice to do something that's a little bit of like a brain candy almost. You're not kind of overthinking things too much. But
Yeah.
in terms of what I'm reading, oh my god, I'm not even reading anything at the moment. So I
Mm-hmm.
was actually looking at Jodi Picoult. Like, I always love a little bit of like some. I know I probably experience emotional distress and trauma on a daily basis, but I just
Yeah.
mean like I wanted to read something that really resonates or that affects me in a way that it's I don't know, maybe it's just something that I'm used to, so I look for it as well. So
Oh
I want to
wow.
read something like good and
Yes.
fun and
I
just
know,
just
right?
enjoy my holidays. So
Oh, well, here,
yeah.
I'll share something with you. So I just recently
Okay,
purchased some books
please.
while I'm on vacation, um, that I wanted to read. And I've always wanted to read Tabitha Brown's book, which is
Oh
called Feeding the
wow.
Soul Because It's My Business. Finding Our Way to Joy, Love, and Freedom. I just love Tabitha Brown.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, so this
But didn't
book,
she didn't she start from TikTok as well?
actually, she did,
I thought
but
that she did.
Tabitha Brown actually was an Uber driver. She started her career as an Uber driver. So I think somewhere like four
That's
years ago, she was
insane.
an Uber driver. Now she is this woman who just has such a big
Oh, she's
voice,
massive now. Huge impact on them.
massive
Yeah.
impact, even to, veganism, her, creating,
Yeah.
opening her restaurants, her kids shows that she's doing now with on
Mm.
YouTube, her book, her relationship with Calm. Like I listen to her
Oh
sweet
my
stories
God. Thank
on
you for
Calm.
sharing that. I'm gonna have a look at all of this now.
Tabitha Brown is absolutely amazing. So I was so glad to actually, I wanted to pick up this book for the longest time, but I got it today and I was so happy.
Yeah.
So happy to share that with
Oh,
you.
I know. I'm gonna need to, and I also want to read the Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, her
Brené
second,
Brown,
like, so not her second book,
yes.
the book that she has out. So
Yes.
I might, you're inspiring me because I was thinking, what can I like spend the next 4 days? I want
Uh-huh.
to read something because you
Yes.
just don't get the opportunity. You're so busy.
It's
And I
true.
think it's so important. It's so important.
Yes.
So
That book is on my list of books to get right now, but I had like
yeah.
there were a couple books. So I always have like a book list from my guests. So like whenever guests recommend stuff, I always end up buying the books.
Yeah.
But I always wanted the Tabitha Brown book, which just because I follow Tabitha Brown, I think she's absolutely amazing. But then I also
Mm.
bought the second book, because I have her first book, Mend the Hearts, Right Within,
Yes.
how to heal from racial trauma in the workplace. As I wanted to read this book so much. And I'm actually going to be interviewing Linda Hartz in June. So I need to read the book
Wow.
before. So
You need to hustle. Hurry,
I need to
hurry.
hustle and read her book. And then I also purchased a book that one of my friends wrote, Melissa Doman, which is Yes, You Can Talk About Mental Health at Work. Here's why, and
Oh
how to
my
do it
God, I
really
love
well.
that.
That is such a
Yeah.
cool book. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to diving into those books within the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know what, Julie, I just want to comment because I wanted to add it before in the
Uh-huh.
previous like question that you asked, but
Sure.
and not to get emotional because it's so important. Like I feel like in HR sometimes it's so hard to have your own values because you
Mm,
feel that you're representing the employees and you're representing the company and you're trying to do the
yes.
best to make sure like the risk is not there for either parties. And I think what people forget is that the reason that HR protects the company is because we protect our employees and we make sure that they're being treated correctly, being paid
Yeah.
correctly. And that's the whole irony of it.
Hmm.
But for you, when I see what you do, it makes me feel stronger in terms of my values and making sure that I stay within what I feel comfortable. And I think that's the struggle sometimes with HR professionals, is that they don't know whether they should speak their mind. And I think for me, the biggest advice, and I know you didn't ask me, but the biggest advice for those that are coming up in the HR profession is that you're allowed to have a moral compass. You're allowed to have, ethical boundaries. You're allowed to be your own person. You're not a representative of the company alone.
No.
You are your own person, and there shouldn't be any repercussions for you to speak your mind and stand up for what's right as well. Yeah.
I want to clap for that so much. I totally love everything that you just said, because it is so true.
Sorry, the sun is like coming in here.
Don't worry, I can still see your face. So let me ask you, what is one of the biggest misconceptions about HR that really bothers you, that you want to set the record straight on right here, right now?
So I think it's the fact that people think that we are, from an employee perspective, we're not on their side, kind of thing. And I think what people forget is that in any corporate job, you're not on anybody's side. You're literally trying to do a job. And I think HR, I feel like there is that, but you're there to be for the company, or you're there for the employees. And I think it's that is true. That's true in parallel. I think you're forgetting that, in order for us to do a good job at making sure that the company is in line with regulations, so the local labor laws, and ensure that we are protected and we're not fined, and we're not, is that to ensure that people, so for example, high turnover, that's a huge risk to the business. That's a huge risk in terms of the knowledge that we're losing. It's a huge risk around, retraining and making sure that our clients don't feel the impact of people that are leaving. So for us, it's like the turnover piece. It's not just to protect the business. This is just to make sure that our clients and our customers are getting we're running a business as a collective. So in order for us to be successful, create revenue, for people to get more money, for people to have salary increases, like all of these things we're trying to protect as the HR function. And building leadership capability is also on the flip side. We're not saying leaders are not good at their job. We're saying that you can do better. Everyone can do a little bit better. So how do you help us, and how do you utilize HR to ensure that all of those things are happening? And if you find that a HR person is not doing the right thing, you also can hold them accountable.
Exactly.
It's okay. It's okay to call, behaviors out that you feel that you're not being treated in the way that you should be. It's also okay to do that. So
Exactly. I love that. I can't even add to it, but I really appreciate that, because I think at the end of the day, as HR professionals, sometimes you get the feeling as though you're straddling these two sides of the organization, the leaders and the employees on the ground. But at the end, if you really think about yourself as a servant, right? Everyone in your space, you are serving. And so you're always going to strive for the best outcome for everyone, because you're serving everyone. And if you're leading with heart, then it makes it a lot easier, the emotional intelligence that it takes for us to do this role. And to your point that you made before, that it takes a certain kind of person to be in this space. It's not for everyone, and anyone cannot do it, right? It takes a special, specific kind of person to do this job. So I really appreciate your thoughts on that. I want to ask you, what do you do for your own self-care? How do you practice self-care? Because as HR, we suck at that. That's the truth. Yes. Right? We do. It's the truth. We focus a lot on everybody else, but we don't take the time to focus on ourselves. So
it's so true.
What do you do to take care of you, Veronica?
So my husband called me out the other day, and he said, you post a lot of these things around setting boundaries, and you post these things about how people need to care for themselves in order to bring their best selves at work. And, you work all these long hours, you don't have time to spend with the family sometimes, to have dinner, and, I'm like on calls because I do different time zones. Right. And so I think, I'll tell you what I'm doing, and I'll tell you what I want to do more of. And I think that's probably more accurate. So what I do is I go to the gym every day. That's something that is a non-negotiable. So exercise for me just feels natural. And I just like the fact that I can make the time for myself there and stop thinking about anything else. So exercise is like one. I'm also making sure that I do something I'm passionate about. So that's why the TikTok is something that I create content, because it's also a way for me to express myself, and actually a way where I feel like it resonates and it gives me that serotonin that I need. And people, I'm like, okay, people get it. And you'll see that a lot of the content I put might be what I feel at that moment. So it's kind of my way of like calling my work bestie, which is all of everyone, you know, including you. When you comment on my page, I'm like, yes, if Julie comments on my quotes, I'm like, I'm on the money. Like, I know that I've got something right. And so what I would like to do more of, and I do spend a lot of time with my kids, obviously on the weekends and on the time off, but I'd really love to allocate, and I try to do it now, block out a time, because I work with Asia time zone and Israel time zone, which is the same as Europe, is to block out a time to bed, bath and dinner. So just to ensure that I've got, you know, my kids are like 6 and 3 and they're not going to be young forever. So I want to be able to spend that time. And then obviously, like, my husband understands I cannot spend as much time with him, but I try to allocate some times as well in the weeks to ensure that we can watch our show together. We can watch an episode of something that we're doing, so we can enjoy that as well, which normally is reserved for the weekend. But, you know, if it's something really urgent, then I will deal with it. But if it's not, then I think I need to just prioritize. So.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. I think that's a great balance, that you have non-negotiables, like going to the gym and stuff like that, and then spending time with your family, and, you know, making dinner and bath time non-negotiable as well. I feel like all of those things are so important, and it's just the little things, right? But these are things that matter to your family, because at the end of the day, your children they're not going to be small forever. And they're going to get to a stage where when they get big and they're independent, and, you know, they don't need you as much, but they will always need you. So you really want to cherish these, you know, young age moments. So I really appreciate that.
Totally. Yeah. Thanks, Julie. No, I really, it's just something that really, I think, matters to me. I think I was saying to somebody before that the thing that I gauge myself on the things that I overthink and I worry about is that, is this going to matter in 5 years or 10 years time? And I think that helps me stay grounded in terms of, like, is this going to matter in the future? And a lot of the times, anything I do with my children, I feel that definitely is a yes. And anything to do with, I didn't send that email, is definitely a no. So like, it's a clear line in the sand there. So
definitely. I love that. And I appreciate that. Yeah. With that being said, Veronica, you have survived your time in the sound booth with me today. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Can you tell us what's next for Veronica Sargent?
Oh my God. I think I just want to stay a little bit of stability for now. So I think stay in my role for a time, just so that, you know, obviously it's my second year in the role and in the company. And, you know, it's always good to, first year you're learning, the second year you're embedding, and then the third year absolutely kicking goals. So I think I'd love to kind of stay within the industry and the job that I'm doing. I think it's always good to master your craft.
Right.
I love that. And then from a family perspective, we're going to stay in Sydney. So this is our location for a while, because I think we thought about different kind of areas in the country, even looked at Singapore, maybe London, other places. But I think we'll just anchor ourselves in Sydney for quite some time. And yeah, just that's about. And TikTok, I don't know. We'll continue to create content until it's like not relevant anymore, I guess.
Or at least until you start having fun, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would love to make it something that is a career for me, like in terms of, I've always looked at, like, for example, for you, I'm so inspired, you know, you did your TED talk, you know, TEDx. I look at Brene Brown and the impact that she has. And I think it's like, I would aspire to be people like you and others that are spreading that message. I would love to do that, but I know that it's a pipe dream at the moment, and it'll take me some time. So,
well, I'm telling you, you're doing a fantastic job right now, and
thank you.
You know, you're more ahead than you definitely probably think you are, but you're doing such a fantastic job, and I am truly inspired by your content as well. So please continue, because I look forward to seeing it every single day. I'm like, what did Veronica post today?
Can we do like a collaboration? I'd love to do like a one where we do it together. Let me think.
Yes.
Let me think.
Let's do
and
that.
Then we can do something. Yes.
Absolutely. I actually have done a duet of one of your videos already.
Yeah, but we'll create one like actual content together. I'll have a think. I'll send you some ideas, and then we can do one that is like more just the one trending sound and the two of us collaborating in it. Let's see.
Yeah, that sounds good. So guys, you could look out for that. And that brings us to the end of our show today. So thank you so much for being here, Veronica. And I wish you
having me.
all the best. And we'll continue to look out for your content. So People Culture Collective, go follow Veronica right now and check out her content. Trust me, you are missing out if you're not there already.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us in the sound booth today. I hope that you found this information from this episode useful. You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Julie Turney. That's I-A-M Julie Turney. And you can find this episode or this show on most digital platforms, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Thanks to Rock Solid Entertainment for helping me to put this content together for you. And I will see you again in the next Sound Off.